Look, the first thing to say is put aside to 1 minute the fact that we're politicians and just remember what we all share in thinking about the common good. On Saturday at 3 o'clock, with my wife and with our family and friends, my youngest child, my daughter, who was born 14 months ago and whom we adopted 6 months ago, will be at a christening, her christening. And in the room, I will receive lots of wonderful good faith from family and friends. And actually, when I go back to the constituency, for those that know, there'll be a lot of good faith. And as a human being, reflecting on a stage of my life where both my parents have died, and where I'm very blessed to have a wonderful, wonderful partner to travel through life with, my wonderful wife, that good faith that surrounds the occasions of death, of marriage, of a baptism are hugely important to me. So I start by emphasizing the good faith because very, very sadly, it's hard to achieve common good, common ground in a culture of bad faith. And there's a lot of bad faith around in our politics at the moment. There is an assumption by the oracles that are there to get the public information, particularly parts of our media, where the starting point is bad faith. The starting point, I have passionate disagreements with my Conservative colleagues, even though you have the best of the Conservative Party here tonight. But I would absolutely say to you, my experience of the vast majority of politicians that I meet at local and national levels is that these are people of good faith. They might do foolish things, inane things, stupid things, frustrating things, venal things, but the starting point has to be good faith. If we assume bad faith, common ground, common good is hard to achieve. The second thing I would say is the biggest challenge to common, what is common, or in my political tradition, what is collective, or in other periods, I think of the 70s, what we used to talk about solidarity, solidarnosc, as you thought about those traditions fighting against communism, particularly in Eastern Europe, that collective ideal. The biggest challenge to that in our times, it seems to me, is hyper-individualism. And this is something that Christians should care passionately about. But I want to say this. When I put up their hyper-individualism and the times in which we live, of course, as a Labour politician, and I might say as a Christian socialist, because all political parties, by the way, are coalition of interests, and the coalition of interests that I share with Stephen is that we are Christian socialists, or as we now describe ourselves, Christians on the left. But within that, of course we challenge the economic liberalism that basically got us to a place that says it's okay to make as much money as you want, however you want, that leads to a rabid individualism and hyper-individualism. But equally, on the left of politics, there is another tradition that combines, which is this idea that we all have rights, my right, your right as a woman, or as a gay man, or as a child, lots of rights, many of which we fought for rightly in the 20th century, but somehow at the turn of the 21st, we have no responsibilities. And we can't come back together again. Both of these forces, economic liberalism and actually social liberalism, can get us to a place of hyper-individualism. This is an attack on what is common, and I think must be at the centre of debate. And then I think the last thing I would say is this. As a Christian, I have right in my mind's eye that Jesus was born under a death warrant with his parents fleeing across borders, terrified as soldiers chased them to kill them, born not in some wonderful stable that we sort of parody at Christmas time, but a hovel with muck and animals and dirt all around. That brings me to a place that must be on the side of those that flee and would seek refugee status, and puts me on the side of those that really are fighting for social justice on behalf of those who do not. That seems to me also to be the common interests of us as human beings.